When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
Tucker, you are not the father. This has to be wrong!
After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
If it was okay to have anal sex.
No apologies.
You were talking about things that probably you shouldn't talk about.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I finally have my own show!
At one point, your ancestors owned slaves.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
He wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
Cut your penis off, Max.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with your host, Alex Stein, starts right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to After Hours with Alex Stein. You're watching it right here on Real America's Voice. Tonight is a crazy night because, you know, with this recent Epstein leaks, the conspiracy theorists are batting 1,000. I mean, you know, it's I could have told you so. And Pam Bondi had an epic crash out. And then on top of that, our recent visit to the Plano City Council dressed as an Indian man is absolutely causing a storm in the country of India, especially in Mumbai, because I'm getting hit with lots of bots. And we're going to cover all of this tonight. But I want to start out with the conspiracy that I've been talking about since I was a young lad, I guess you would say. I don't even know if that's the proper way to use that word, but it doesn't matter. When I was a young man, I remember my mom crying and the whole world mourning the death of a legendary singer of the band Nirvana, Kurt Cobain. Now, sadly, I guess I've gotten so old, people do not understand. Nirvana was the greatest rock band of all time, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. They were the coolest rock band of all time. At a time when Madonna was charging $50 for a ticket, they always kept their price at $17. They didn't care about making money. Like, they were the ideal grunge band of grunge bands. Like, they were the one. They created a trend and movement that sadly has kind of been forgotten by this modern era of music and young kids today. But Kurt Cobain was so likable. He suffered from depression. He was a heroin addict. When I say all of that, it kind of makes him not seem as cool, but he was a true icon and rebel. His music changed the world. And it's really sad the way that he died because he was allegedly doing a bunch of heroin, where I think that we proved that he was with the autopsy. And he was able to write a really weird suicide note that wasn't as creative as he seemed to normally be in his everyday life, or at least in his music career. And the physics of how he shot himself never made sense. And from the start, everybody thought it was an inside job. And a lot of people blamed his wife at the time, Courtney Love, who was a lead singer of a band and was a popular singer, but not even near the popularity level of Kurt Cobain. And it seemed like she benefited the most. And what was really odd to me, I remember as a young kid, and I remember all the fans, is that Kurt Cobain loved his daughter. That was the one thing that gave Kurt Cobain, happiness, a guy that was, brutally depressed and had a lot of anxiety and stress. And everybody kind of thought, man, he would stay alive for his daughter, that he wouldn't punish his daughter. It didn't matter how much he was strung out on heroin, because that was always his motivation to get clean, was the love of his daughter. And Kurt's wife, Courtney Love, was a mess. She was always butt naked, spreading her legs, going on TV shows, acting like a total degenerate, and really embarrassing Kurt. But Kurt was such a nice guy that I guess he didn't have the nerve to divorce her or break up with her, but I know that they had a very tumultuous relationship. So I want to play this clip that is basically proving all the conspiracy theorists right. The most recent update is that they are ruling it not a suicide anymore, but they're ruling Kurt Cobain's death a homicide. But I mean, the fact that it's so long ago, I don't know if we'll ever get any sort of retribution against his murderer. I don't know if they're going to actually have to pay for their crimes. But I want to play this clip of a forensics expert talking about how the physics of him killing himself really doesn't make sense.
First is the gun. The police have always stated that Kurt gripped the barrel with his left hand to steady it. But this new study argues that is physically impossible with the specific weapon. Kurt used a Remington Model 11 shotgun. The gun has a mechanical quirk. The barrel has to slide backward to kick out the empty shell when you fire. The experts state that if you held the barrel, like the police say Kurt did, the gun jams. It cannot eject the shell because your hand blocks the movement. However, at the scene, the shell was ejected and found lying on the floor. The study concludes that for the shell to eject, Kurt's hand could not have been gripping the barrel. And if his hand wasn't on the barrel, they argue that he couldn't have pulled the trigger in the manner described by police.
Now, there's always been a debate. How did Kurt shoot himself with this huge gun? Some people speculated that he used his foot and that he was holding onto the barrel and he was actually using his toe to pull the trigger. But we never knew because the crime scene was so crazy. And at the same exact time, Courtney Love was not really trusted. A lot of people speculated that she could have written the suicide note. And, you know, people could have thought that there was a million other motivations to kill him at the time because he was such a popular musician. So really, nobody believed the story even back then. Because a guy coming off drugs, yes, he's probably depressed. But for a guy that was the #1 rock artist at the time, I mean, the #1 guy, it was just so bizarre for him to kill himself. And this was the time when Biggie and Tupac were shot and killed, and everybody said that they were basically on quote-unquote Epstein's island. People said that they were still alive, which I don't think that was true. But I'm saying every time these mega superstars would make it to the top of their field, they would die under mysterious circumstances. I mean, we've never caught the gunman that killed Biggie or Tupac. And I guess you could say that we've never caught the gunman that killed Kurt Cobain. So now let's play this shot, and it gives us a little more context surrounding this mystery.
Third is the toxicology. We know Kurt had a massive amount of heroin in his system. The study claims it was enough to knock him out in seconds. The experts allege that it is highly unlikely he could have injected that much heroin, put his drug kit away, rolled down his sleeves, and then picked up a gun before passing out. They also point to a mark on Kurt's arm. They describe a puncture wound that looks like it came from a different type of needle than the ones found in his kit. They suggest this could be evidence that someone else administered the injection.
Now, I'm not saying this happened, but there was always a conspiracy that Courtney Love tried to kill Kurt by giving him a lethal dose of heroin, but because he had such a drug tolerance, he didn't die. And so his body was just still breathing, and that's when they framed it and made it look like he shot himself with a shotgun. Now, I don't know if that's true, but there's just so many mysteries surrounding this entire situation that it really kind of makes you think, what is the truth? And now with these recent Epstein releases that we've been talking about for forever, that they said was just a hoax, we're finding out that is true. Seems like all these conspiracies are literally coming true. The conspiracy theorists are batting 1,000. I can't believe it. But it's a sad thing when the conspiracy theorists are right. The conspiracy theorists really don't want to be right. I know that you see Dan Bongino was talking about how people want there to be an evil cabal that's ruling the world, that's trafficking elite pedophiles, and Ben Shapiro said something similar. But trust me, as a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, I wish my conspiracies were wrong. I wish the government told us the truth. I wish we didn't live in a world of lies, and I wish we knew how Kurt Cobain died. And a lot of people that are watching this do not understand the legend that Kurt was, but he created a music movement, the grunge movement, that changed the whole entire world, that brought a lot of people joy. And he was always down to earth and laid back. And that's a lot different than the artists today, like Bad Bunny, that thinks he's the next Michael Jackson, basically. So I want to play this last shot. This gives you a little more context of the accusations against his wife, Courtney Love.
Ever since Kurt Cobain turned the gun on himself in 1994, fans have speculated that he was actually murdered by his wife, Courtney Love. This was fueled by the fact that Courtney's own private investigator, Tom Grant, who she hired to find Cobain when he escaped from rehab, genuinely believes that she killed Kurt. For starters, Grant notes that Cobain injected himself with such a large dose of heroin before his death that there's no way he would have been able to pull the trigger. Grant also believes Cobain's note was doctored by Love to make it appear as a suicide note. Additionally, there was a lack of fingerprints from Kurt or others at the scene, suggesting that they may have been carefully removed to hide someone else's evidence. Grant also asserts that Love had a financial motive to kill Cobain, considering Kurt was planning to divorce her. Perhaps most shockingly, Kurt Cobain's own grandfather, Leland Cobain, believed that Kurt had been murdered, and he reportedly held this belief for the rest of his life until he died in 2014.
Now, even Kurt Cobain's family thought that he was murdered. But luckily for Kurt, the majority of his estate went to his daughter, so it all went to a good place, or at least a person that deserved it. Courtney Love was able to get a little bit of money, but she even put it in a trust where it went mainly to Kurt's daughter. But trust me, Kurt's daughter did not get any joy from, inheriting millions of dollars. She'd much rather have her dad. And his music still is popular today. Not as popular as it was back then, but Nirvana Nevermind was one of the best albums of all time. It is it's just such a sad loss that we lost Kurt Cobain, not to suicide, but to more likely a homicide. And we're never going to catch the killer, just like we didn't catch Tupac's killer. We didn't get Biggie's killer. We don't have Kurt Cobain's killer. It's just absolutely bizarre that all of these incredible artists die under mysterious circumstances, and we never know who did it. Well, speaking of Virginia Giuffre, and then speaking of Savannah Guthrie and all the weird connections to Epstein, I do not think that he was on Epstein Island and he had any connection to the Clintons. So we can rule out all of the Clintons and the Guthries and all of that stuff, and I think we can kind of put the blame squarely on potentially his wife, Courtney Love. But I do hope I'm wrong. Well, folks, we got a great episode tonight. We got Kai Schwimmer on, and we're going to talk about Pam Bondi's epic crash out. We're also going to talk about I'm getting canceled in India, which I love it. I like it because these guys are good at the internet. They're on there clicketing and clacketing. They're helping me get a little bit of that X revenue money that I need so dearly. And I didn't realize that they were so sensitive. And they're trying to say that I'm lying. Some people are saying that I'm lying, but then you see there's multiple comments saying, yeah, okay, we do, eat and drink urine for medicinal purposes. So there's a lot of misinformation surrounding the Hindu religion, and we're going to dive deep into what's really going on. And as a representation of the Hindu movement, I feel like I'm getting targeted unfairly, okay? Because believe it or not, our race is on a spectrum, unlike gender. Gender is very binary, but I believe that I did have Indian grandparents at one time. So I'm 1/16 black, and I'm 1/16 Indian, and I'm 1/16 Chinese. So I can say that. So coming up next, we got Kai Schwimmer to dive deep into what's going on with Pam Bondi.